nodding at Agros, who stood to the side as well. "I'll have this array installed in half an hour," Kenzie answered as she blew a wisp of hair away from her face. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine. I'll be able to get a breather when the undead are dealt with," Zack sighed. "Have you decided what to do to get to the mainland?" Agros asked. "If we haven't managed to stop the disruption by the point I'm ready to leave, then I'll risk it and use Kenzie's stabilization array. The area that was jammed by the undead the last time was enormous, and I'm afraid that going to Cogstown will just be a waste of time," Zack said. "Fair enough," Agros shrugged. "I'll get Calrin's uncle to help me set it up," Kenzie said. "He's pretty skilled with arrays, but he can only help with things that we buy through Thayer Consortium. Something to do with the limitations of the mercantile license. That little blue bastard should be thankful that we don't throw him into a space altair to search for a safe passage for us," Agros muttered from the side. Zack snorted and was inclined to agree. The Sky Gnome's small act of giving him a protective ring had caused a ripple effect of almost incomprehensible proportions. It had led to the Zethaya Pillhouse blowing up and him gaining infamy through slaughtering over 100 scions of the Zekia sector. Who knew what trouble waited for him when venturing into the vaster stage of the sector? However, the demon's words also made him think of something else, and he turned to Agros. "Can you have the Sky Gnome and his appraisers come over?" Zack asked. "We need to make a preliminary tally of the gains. I want to see if there's anything useful we can bring to the Dead Zone." "Sure," Agros said with some excitement as he flickered away. Zack turned to his sister and handed her his Cosmos sack. His most important treasures had already been moved over to his new spatial ring after it was confirmed that it didn't disappear. Most of the stuff he didn't have any direct use for had been thrown into the Cosmos sack to be either appraised or added to the merit store. "I'll go talk with Brazla for a bit," Zack said. "Is this about Alea?" Kenzie asked as her eyes darted to the necklace around Zack's neck. "Agros told me what happened. I was too late again," Zack sighed. "This was the only thing I could think of." Kenzie silently looked at her brother, but her eyes spoke volumes. I just couldn't sit and watch her die." Zack coughed, dodging the meaning of the stare. He truthfully wasn't sure how he felt about the demoness even now. He had thought about her a lot during the climb, and seeing those snippets of Alea's memories had rekindled the memories of those months they had spent almost attached at the hip after he'd closed the demon incursion. They had gone through ups and downs together, and he knew her even more intimately than Agros, in a sense. If this had been before the integration, he would no doubt have believed it was love. But the past year had numbed him, made him almost unable to think about anything except getting stronger. First, it was to find his family. Then, it was to save Earth. He had never stopped to consider things such as love, especially not after Hannah's betrayal. But all of that was moot now that she was a coffin. "So, you think you can bring her back in the future?" Kenzie asked instead, after seeing her brother's brooding silence. "That's what I hope. I'll go talk with Brazla. He might know more," Zack said with a pained face. "Provided he's in a talkative mood today." "Say hello from me. It's been a while since I've had time to visit him. This thing will be up and running when you're back," Kenzie said as she turned back to keep working on the Heaven's Secrets array. Zack smiled as he flashed away with Lone Walker, and he found himself in front of the towers of Myriad Tau in a few seconds. His Tau repository had always looked gaudy, but now that he had witnessed the awe-inspiring Tower of Eternity and its mysterious apparitions, it looked even worse. The lights were blinding but hollow, completely lacking the mysteries of the universe. Zack kept his opinions to himself, though, as he walked inside the repository with a staid expression. So, you survived after all. The ever-annoying voice drifted over as Rosla descended from a golden light appearing out of nowhere. The tool spirit was decked in golden armor, with multiple golden and gem-studded swords attached to his back. Zack wasn't sure, but he guessed that he was copying the creator of the Blade Master inheritance this time, perhaps inspired by the war outside. I thought more capable owners had descended on the island for a moment, but I guess the great Brasla has to make do with you for a while longer. Brasla added as he threw Zack a scathing glance as he conjured his throne. I'll try to live up to your expectations, Zack sighed. My sister sends her regards. Brasla said, but he suddenly froze as he stared at the necklace around Zack's neck. What's that? Chapter 68. Invitations. This craftsmanship, Brasla muttered with glowing eyes as he teleported closer. It almost matches that of the great Brasla himself. But why does it have a false spirit within? That's what I came to talk to you about. One of my people was dying. Her soul was crumbling. The only thing I could think of was to use a divine investiture array to lock her soul in a spirit tool in hopes of saving her life. Using the holy array for such a purpose, Brasla muttered. Sacrilege. My creator would have turned you into blood mist if he heard about you wasting such a chance on something so frivolous. I was out of options and got desperate, Zack admitted. I came to ask you, do you know if I can bring her back? Bring her back? Brasla asked as he looked at Zack like he was an idiot. Why would you want to do that? As long as the girl's spirit heals, she can become true spirit. You will have to break some rules to upgrade her. You only seem all too willing to dabble in the taboo. What do you mean? Zack asked. This thing will not be able to improve the normal way. You'll need to find creative solutions to upgrade it. Solutions that the heavens won't be too happy about, the tool spirit said, clearly taking pleasure in Zack's misfortune. Why would I need to upgrade the spirit tool, though? Zack asked. I just want to return her to life. Upgrading a weapon will upgrade the spirituality residing within. Just look at the dumb mutt inside your axe. You will need to upgrade this thing if you want to heal the girl, Brasla said. Zack frowned when he heard the news. This was clearly bad. He had never had any desire to go against the system by becoming an unorthodox cultivator, but it was exactly what he needed to do to upgrade Love's Bond from the sound of it. Even weirder, it almost felt like the system was pushing him in that direction, as it was the system that had given him the array. Just what was it planning? Was this another type of trial that wanted to have him survive? If he stepped on the unorthodox path, he would be turned into a pariah like the technocrats. People might get quests to kill him just by coming close to him. Or was the system planning something else entirely? Something related to the Terminus? But first of all, Zack needed to know if there even was a point to going down that road. If I make her a new body, can I put her soul into it and give her back her life? Zack asked. No idea, Brasla shrugged with disinterest. Seems pretty stupid. Haven't you ever hoped to become living? To become able to cultivate just like your creator? Zack probed, hoping to elicit some response. Why would the great Brasla ever want to become a flesh bag cursed by mortality? I am perfection, unsullied by time, and I will walk these halls long after both you and your planet have turned to dust. I might not be able to cultivate, but I am eternal. The tool spirit grinned, and shining lights started appearing all around him like he was a god's avatar or something. But do you know if it's possible? Someone as knowledgeable as you must surely have figured some things out, Zack entreated. My creator once mentioned that spirituals can reach a sublime state where they are virtually indistinguishable from cultivators, but he had never seen it himself. Of course, the great Brasla wouldn't degrade himself to the point of being mistaken for a lowly human. But all things are possible, the tool spirit admitted. Turning a false spirit back into someone living is probably possible. So it's possible after all, Zack sighed in relief. It might be possible, but what you want to do is going against the natural order, Brasla snorted. It's akin to bringing back those from the dead. It might be achievable for the great characters of the multiverse, but what does that have to do with a piece of trash like you? I'll work hard and get there sooner or later, Zack said. As long as it's possible, it'll be fine. A derisive snort was all the tool spirit deigned to respond with before he dissipated again. Zack felt as though a huge weight was lifted from his shoulders as he walked back toward the Nexus house. Brasla was obviously a bit fuzzy on the details, but it really seemed that returning Alea into a demon was within the realm of possibilities. That was all Zack could ask for right now. He knew the process would likely be a long and arduous one, but at least he hadn't completely messed things up. The knowledge gave him a sense of purpose beyond saving Earth as well. But for now, he needed to refocus on the task at hand. He needed to get his items appraised and deal with the realignment. The thought of his items suddenly reminded him of the 2 Cosmos sacks he had stowed away just before leaving Basetown. They were from Liara and Pretty, and curiosity made him take a look before returning to his sister. The Cosmos sack he got from Pretty Peak just contained 3 crystals and a teleportation token, but he was surprised to see that one of them was a skin crystal. He didn't immediately touch it, but rather turned his attention toward the middle crystal, which seemed to be a communication crystal. He infused some cosmic energy into it. The next moment, the voice of Pretty Peak appeared in his mind. I engraved this thing because some things should not be spoken aloud. You should not rely on the Heliophis clan dealing with the threat to your planet. There are some unsavory rumors about that clan
There's
among
not
the top
tax dollars
forces
at
of the
work.
Zekia sector.
It's a tax dollar.
Divination comes with a cost, one that few are willing to pay unless absolutely necessary. One cannot divulge heaven's secrets wantonly, but being able to glimpse the future is also an extremely addicting power, from what I have heard. Zack suddenly remembered Lord Forth, who'd stopped Abaddon rest in peace from saying too much. The reincarnated Buddhist had said essentially the same thing. Did divination perhaps mess with the plans the system had set in motion across the multiverse, and was therefore punished? Or was it simply that such a heaven-defying ability couldn't be powered by something so basic as cosmic energy? Zack shook his head as he
That's how you measure.
Many believe that the Heliophis clan is searching for means to avoid the side effects of divination and karmic manipulation. They are already suspected to have been gravitating toward unorthodox means for tens of thousands of years. It's possible that Viridis is performing his mad experiments with the clan's tacit blessing, and that they even have covertly protected him from capture by manipulating events behind the curtain. I don't understand how Viridis has survived pursuit for so long otherwise. But they can attempt to find out what skill that lunatic has concocted in case they can use it for themselves. Zack sighed when he heard the explanation. Yet another method to deal with the threat of the attack seemed to be as long as he cut any karmic links in time, they were likely safe. After meeting Cathea, he finally had a better grasp of just how a star sector was constituted. She had likened a star sector to a book where each page was a dimensional layer. A star sector was, in other words, not a coherent galaxy teeming with life, but rather parts of multiple planes stacked so close to each other that dimensional travel was possible. Not even singular forces were constrained to a single dimension. The Albright Empire was comprised of planets and continents across thousands, perhaps tens of thousands, of realities. Some planets in the Empire might actually exist in the same dimension, but so far away from each other that it was infinitely faster to use interdimensional travel rather than normal travel to go between the two planets. It was akin to wormhole technology that Zack had seen in science fiction movies, where space was somehow bent and twisted, and traveling out of the main dimension was like taking a shortcut compared to moving in a straight line. The whole thing was extremely confusing, but the biggest takeaway was the difficulty of finding one's way without one. The Redeemer was probably traveling toward Earth or another seeded planet at this very moment, and he needed to move through multiple dimensions to get there. As long as any karmic link was cut off before Veritas was within a few dimensional layers of Earth, finding this place was almost impossible, especially while the system's shroud was still in effect. This was also why flying treasures that could travel between worlds were expensive to the point that even D-grade warriors were often confined to their own world, or at least their solar system. The vessels didn't only need to have the capability to fly through the vacuum of space, they also needed the abilities to push through dimensional layers. It was a bit uncomfortable to think about, but Zack's only recourse was to hide Earth, so that Veritas fell on some other poor planets instead of Earth. He could only pray that the people of Berum would manage to take out all the remaining members of the Nadine Warlords on their side, as no one deserved to be culled by a lunatic like the Redeemer. That would be the best case scenario, where all the seed planets managed to hide from Veritas. He already looked as though he wasn't long for the world, and 100 years was a long time. Perhaps the issue would be dealt with by the time that Earth was properly integrated into the Zekia sector. I will contact the Heliophas clan for you, the message continued. But you truly shouldn't expect much. You can still get in touch with me by visiting Jera at the Blossom Rose Sword School that's close to Trasteria, the city where the teleportation token leads. She is an elder there and a disciple of my father. Trasteria is located on the main continent of the Albright Empire, a vast place full of opportunities. You can simply use the token to move to a place with more opportunities if you want. But you should know that your situation is precarious. Standing out too much without backing can cause an endless amount of trouble to arrive at your doorstep. The universe is full of lunatics, ready to risk everything to progress one step further on the road of cultivation. And some might believe you might be the key for them to take that step. I hope you will be able to survive the following centuries. The Zekia sector is a beacon. The second information crystal was a comprehensive introduction packet of the Albright Empire, its forces, and even some mystical ones that provided good limited titles. There were also a couple of identities that Zack could freely assume with the help of the attached skill, which was of the shape-shifting variety. It was like he was about to enter the Witness Protection Program or something. The skill was called Shared Identity, and it worked a bit differently compared to 1,000 Faces. The skill he got from Pretty seemed to be able to create a later transformation, where even one's aura could be changed by a certain degree. But it came with only 3 preloaded identities. He could essentially take one of these 3 shared identities, but he wouldn't be able to change his face as he wished, like he could with 1,000 Faces. Zack held off on learning the skill for now, but it wasn't impossible he'd use it in the future. It would be pretty convenient to step into the shoes of someone with a proper background, but he didn't know if there were any strings attached to taking the name of one of these 3 men. Zack turned his attention to the second Cosmo sat next, but but his expression froze when he noticed its contents. There were only two things inside: a short note and a frilly piece of fabric. A small greeting gift to remember me by. I am not allowed to hand out teleportation tokens to the Void Gate, but I would be happy to entertain you if you have the opportunity to stop by. We can talk about fashion and our features under the light of the Void Star. Liara. Zack blankly looked at the note, his mind unable to compute what was going on. The strained smile of Liara suddenly flashed by in his mind before he remembered the apologetic face of Galau. Just what had the merchant divulged during their meeting? Would he be known as some sort of deviant in the whole sector because of that one level in the tower? A sigh escaped from his mouth as he stowed away the Cosmosat, unsure what to do with the treasure. He could only reluctantly put it into his spatial ring, as it would be weird throwing it out in the middle of his forest. However, things didn't get much better when he returned to the Nexus house, where Kenzie stood next to a rack of exquisite dresses, while three sky gnomes eagerly went through the mound of treasure. "Why are there so many dresses in your sack?" Kenzie asked with a weird smile when she noticed his return. "I was about to ask." The demon laughed from the side. "I thought I absconded with the most treasures back then, but I see that I still have much to learn." "Are you planning on wooing someone? Is it Thea?" Kenzie asked before she shot him hesitantly. "Oh, don't tell me." "Don't be silly," Zack sighed. "Some of you are finding actual psi-ops from other parts of the multiverse. I looted my new ring and those dresses from a girl who targeted me. Do you think any trouble from that will lead back to Earth?" Agros asked with a frown. "I doubt it," Zack said hesitantly. "It kind of looked like my human side was killed by the girl I looted, and she was killed by someone else in turn. I fought the rest of the battle in my Draugr form. I don't think the system would allow problems to follow you back home, right? Perhaps it's possible to do something to cleanse the items if needed." However, he honestly wasn't sure as he let up. Chapter 69. Choices. He had already noticed it back during his meeting with Cathay, but there was something wrong with his chest. His Tane had left a burn on his body that he hadn't been able to get rid of with healing pills. However, his torso blown apart and reformed by creation energy had dealt with
The
that
opposite
problem.
working.
Or so he thought. He still couldn't see any mark on his body, but he had felt a slight pain in his chest multiple times now. But the feeling was gone before he had a chance to react, making him almost doubt it was ever there. He couldn't see anything amiss, but the fire mage had seemed to come from a real powerful force. She might have all kinds of means of tracking he had no idea about. "The Thayer Consortium happens to be skilled in those kinds of endeavors. We'll happily help in this regard, for a small remuneration," Calvin said as he gave a premium bow. "Young lord, it's good to see you again." Zack didn't immediately greet the wild merchant, but he rather gazed at the sky for a few seconds as his thumb brought the offensive treasure he received from Calvin before him for the tower. "Did you know that the ring you gave me would cause trouble with the Xaru clan?" Zack asked, trying to gauge his sleep.